You guys feel good? Stream alright? Graphics going well? You guys feel confident in anything?
Okay, he's only got one camera. This matchup with what I got right here.
Yeah, just pronunciations are the big thing.
Alright. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
I'm directing the other game, so if you need anything, just send me a text. I'll get Micah to head over.
Okay. Should be good.
For
Well, that's right. About previous statistics, right? It's a new
even when trailing, that's
journey. Kicks to the corner. Here's Wright. Now outside. Petty was and you're already starting to see the pace of play from this Lynchburg team. They're not afraid to run. Kaysen in her senior season out of Fishersville, Virginia.
Side heavy. I mean, look at Petty, Vandergrift, Littlejohn, and I mean, a plethora.
Here was one where the Hornets struggled in that category. Certain games. Coach Nichols' crew is very proficient beyond.
And Littlejohn last time down the court for the Hornets. They're
Searching and inserts down low. Here's Cole. Ashley Vandergrift. Saints. By Brooke Kaysen.
Yeah, and immediately you see Marymount not wavering from their game.
Track race early. We mentioned that up-tempo style. Massell feeds outside. Take a quick break. We'll be right back on LHSN.
enjoy playing with each other like they're doing so far. Obviously,
Team, as we said, has 6 freshmen. Looking for new faces, but you're looking for important ones, and this Marymount trying to go to the hoop. In.
Vollmer, a beautiful move.
Second one. Sterling can't get it to fall. Now Natalie Poole harassed long ways from home, and the tie-up will send the basketball Lynchburg's direction. 1:24 to go in the first quarter.
Yeah, and for Marymount, that's 2 possessions for Sterling in particular. Beautiful moves down on the inside, just unable to capitalize. But that entire possession started with that pressure. Picking up right at half court, making Littlejohn pick her dribble up, and not giving her a clean passing lane. You do that, you create yourself a transition opportunity. They weren't able to capitalize that time, but you got to think that's going to be the game plan.
Might be a Saturday afternoon, but we've seen a lot of the English textbooks coming out because it's been fancy footwork on both sides. Kate Littlejohn had that nice Euro step earlier as Natalie Poole goes to the hardwood, but she's called for travel. Coach Nichols searching through her freshman options on the bench as they have 7 of them in this year's class. You feel like after last year only getting 10 wins, a change had to be made. And Coach Nichols said going into this game that she feels more confident going into this season than ever before with where her squad is at.
Yeah, and you see, the immediate energy that these freshmen that's coming off the bench are bringing for the Hornets squad. Obviously, it's easy for us when we kind of criticize a play here and there, but we've got to have a little bit more fair judgment considering this is their first collegiate game.
Aaliyah Thrash couldn't get this one to fall. Freshman playing her first minutes for the Saints, and Ashley Vandergrift trying to get space. Dishes off to Canada. Tight defense, Vandergrift pump fake in the corner, and the foul is called. That'll be the 3rd on Marymount of the quarter. Remember, in women's ball, to get to the bonus, you'll need 5. Natalie Poole dishes up top to Petty. She'll take the 3-pointer and cash it in. No problem for Audra Petty, her second 3 of the ball game. And Marymount turning the ball over on the other side. How about the poise from Petty? You see, as she gets out there on the court, she has that confidence to just step back and fire.
Well, we saw some of that in her freshman campaign, and it just seemed like as the season went along, you saw her just grow, both as a player and off the court, just the way she was kind of growing to a leader, which is crazy to say as a freshman, but she's carried that over into this campaign, and you're seeing it here in the first quarter of this one.
Thought about another one. Straightaway jumper. Dishes out to Littlejohn. She laces up a 3. The Nets are getting hot for the Hornets in this first quarter, up 9, their largest lead of the ball game. Natalie Poole gets the steal, and the foul is called. How about a swing for this Lynchburg team?
Lynchburg doing a great job going right back to that full court pressure. That time able to get a hand in there, create a turnover. And when you got your offense going like this, you got 3 playmakers. Petty, Vandergrift, Littlejohn out there knocking down 3s, man. It's got to be fun to be a Hornet right now.
Tell you what, I think Lynchburg got frustrated about all the pressure on the other side of the ball. They apply some of their own, and Natalie Poole gets the steal. Time for a final shot. Littlejohn working around in the paint with 5 seconds off the front of the iron. Marymount will have to hoist from half court. Barr's shot off the mark. And 10 minutes through, this Lynchburg team looks mighty confident in Turner Gymnasium, trying to get the season opener victory. They're up 21-12. trailing by 9. And if you remember some of the season openers from recent history between these two squads, Marymount has dominated in that category as Colway goes up off the glass and in. This is a Lynchburg team that hasn't earned a win against Marymount in 6 chances. The last meeting in November of 2024, where Lynchburg lost by 10 in Arlington. Canada runs into trouble and called for the travel. Nice trap defense down low.
And for Marymount, coming out in the second quarter, they've got Colway in the game right now. I really think that's going to try to be their answer to some of that physicality down low. Colway, listed at 6 foot, she definitely has a height advantage almost the entire Hornet roster. So for her, if she can battle through that contact and finish like you just saw in that first possession for the Saints, that could be an answer.
She's the only 6-foot option for Marymount. As Barr tries to thread the pass through to the short corner. Beautiful look. And Crystal Wright able to put it home. Now Marymount down 5. Audra Petty looking to run the offense up top. Goes all the way around the horn. Pass outside to Kaysen. Another option. And the corner just off the mark. That jumper has been there all season long for Petty, going back to last year, as Barr can't get the floater to connect. Another 3-point option. Clips the rim. Offensive rebounds all day for Marymount, finally capitalizing on one. Sterling has an and-one opportunity.
Yeah, Lynchburg doing a really good job defensively down low, creating those opportunities. But you got to credit Marymount on the offensive glass. They have absolutely dominated to this point. And it's gotten them, like you said, second, third, fourth chance opportunities. This time, it's going to credit them with an and-one chance.
8:38 to go in the second quarter. We're going to keep it right here because Kevin got some housekeeping to talk about. There have been some changes in the offseason, particularly for this Lynchburg coaching staff, as they welcome 2 assistants for this year, Felicia Ayutan and Mackenzie Bray. But what's most important is that they both played Division I ball. So you think about this Division III level, which is definitely a very competitive, very gritty style of play. There are some assets you can bring in from that D1 level that help the entire bench, and you feel like both of these have really been beneficial to start the year and just providing confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in my opinion, I think the biggest thing is just having that experience to where you can relate to your players. You know what they're going through on the court. You were out there, you know, in that competitive environment not that long ago, and for them, just being an ear they can talk to or a mind that they can pick whenever they see something on the court that happens, you can just kind of relay that information, continue to learn each and every game.
Felicia Ayutan played ball at UVA. Mackenzie Bray played at several different locations, but Merrimack was the D1. As Sterling gets the offensive rebound, not what you want to see out of a timeout. Pass out to Barr, and the referee will corroborate the clock for that. Looks like it should reset to 20.
One thing about the assistant coaches that I'm kind of disappointed in is we don't have heights listed.
Oh, my goodness. We'll have to go find Felicia Ayutan's height because walking around campus one of the first days, I am not the tallest person on campus at 5'9", but it was incredible as this one's off the mark from Barr. What's your guess?
6'11".
Oh, my goodness. You might not be far off as Vandergrift is charged with the travel.
See, I'm 6'9", and I'm looking up, so it's a rarity.
Ayutan is listed at 6'9" from the UVA page back in the day. So either that means you're inflating or Ayutan has a humble height listed.
Maybe I should stand up straight.
That's right. Get the back problem sorted out. Jumper off and misses everything. Vandergrift corrals the rebound. Looking for a little bit of isolation. Littlejohn cross-court pass. Great one to Brooke Kaysen, but clips the iron and out. Oh, Littlejohn, cookie jar material for the moment, but couldn't come up cleanly with the steal. Quick passing all around the court. Sterling couldn't bank it home. Vandergrift shovels the pass off to Littlejohn. Seeing a lot of good movement from Marymount. This time not quick enough. The mid-range falls for Littlejohn.
Yeah, Littlejohn, I'm telling you, if she starts to get her confidence back like we saw it at the end of last season, she's able to knock down shots all 3 levels. She's one of the most prolific scorers in this conference. She can make you pay from just about anywhere on her side of half court.
Transfer from Roanoke before last season as Barr can't get this one to fall, and it's off to Vandergrift, but the pass too quick and too forced. Littlejohn got 21 starts last season as the jumper falls for Vollmer. And when you look at the three-point statistics, mentioned that Petty was in the top 5 for three-point shooting percentage. So was Littlejohn at 36% beyond the perimeter. Kaysen hassled beyond the perimeter this time. Sterling charged with the foul. Trio of substitutes for Lynchburg. Canada, Jacobisi, and Terry enter the contest.
This is one of those kind of groups on the floor that I want to see, how Lynchburg embraces. What's their play style with this group on the floor? You just saw Littlejohn go to the sideline, and she's been a spark, whether she's got the ball in her hand or run around off ball. Let's see how this offense moves without him.
Caitlin Canada, a few bounces, and it doesn't fall. Looking for her first collegiate points. It's always those rotations at this stage of the half. A lot of different groups. You want to get everybody familiar with one another as Messel's off the mark. Down the court, Kaysen still searching, goes up top to Petty, ready to fire. Another one circles around the cylinder and in. Petty just continues to drift along that three-point line. It's worked out so far as Vollmer had a nifty move to the hoop.
Yeah, really good move that time. That's one of the first times we've seen Lynchburg kind of be a little bit lazy on the defensive end. No help side rotation creates an easy lane, easy 2 points for the Saints.
4-point lead for Lynchburg. Beautiful insertion down low. That's one of the best passes all game, and Jacobisi connects for 2. Now the ball at the hands of Aaliyah Thrash. Up top to Messel. The rotations for a Marymount team that hasn't really used that three-point ball so far. Travel is called. They're 0 for 2 on the day from beyond the perimeter. So this Marymount team looking to get to the cup. Lynchburg striking from way downtown.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask both of these teams kind of what their game plan was, what do they see on the film, I think it'd be exactly the plan right now. Lynchburg shooting the 3 at a pretty good clip right now. Marymount trying to get to the bucket in a hurry.
5 for 9 on the day. Foul is called in penetration. We'll see if it's going to be on the floor.
We talk about kind of, you look at coming into a game, the blueprints, the film, things like that. It kind of makes me upset that we didn't go over our keys to the game.
Oh, my goodness, I know. We're going to have to bring that back. We went into the soccer season, the fall sports. That one kind of evaporated. I feel like in basketball, you got to keep it, right?
Yeah, and there were a couple of times last year where we had some keys and, they didn't happen. But so far, looking at yours, you got 4 listed, and all 4 of them's perfect.
Well, we did, you know what, we'll just call them hypotheses going into this one. And the 3-ball has definitely been evident for Lynchburg in this offseason. But this is a Marymount team in particular. We talked so much about new faces for Lynchburg. But as we said, the Saints are trying to replace over 50% of their scoring from last year. And it's going to be a feel-out period of trying to make sure you figure out who is that right option.
And it's always so tough to do because a lot of it sometimes isn't necessarily just your personnel, right? It's all about who you're going up against, what are they in. Defenses come out in so many different things. You look at mans, you look at zones, presses. It's so hard to kind of tell what you really have until you've had them out there a couple of games and let them gel together, and you get that feeling.
Petty was potentially looking at that pass to Jacobisi right under the bucket. Couldn't get it off her hands. This is a Marymount team that has a rich culture as well. Back-to-back Atlantic East titles just a few years ago under Coach Margaret White. That was before the first season for the new coach, Claire Maddox, who was 9-15 in her first year. Spent 2 seasons as an assistant at American before coaching the Saints, and still in the same area up in Northern Virginia. Bounce pass to Petty. Isolated one-on-one. Kicks out to Terry, ready to fire. And a little too short, but the foul is called under the bucket. .424 to go, and it looks like it's going to be against the Hornets.
Yeah, hold call down low. And You got to applaud the effort. We talked about the rebounding differential so far. At least they're trying to get that advantage, right? Called for at that time, though.
You got to fight for those, and it's going to be a trait throughout the season where you recognize you're going to stay in games because of those hustle stats. Got to find ways to protect them as the mid-range jumper falls. Hermela Schimmels gets her first 2 points. Kick out to Petty, another one. A little too heavy on the rim. Battle for the rebound, Jacobisi has it. Now Kayla Terry. Way outside from the basket. 6 seconds on the shot clock. Audra Petty trying to drive and runs into trouble. That's going to be a traveling violation. Taylor Brown back in the game. 3:41 to go in the first half. Few dribbles down low and off the glass and in. Another quick bucket, and Messel capitalizes for 2. Just a 3-point game.
Yeah, and Marymount's really starting to capitalize on those driving opportunities. You're starting to see Lynchburg slouch off a little bit.
Kaysen couldn't get this one to fall. Extra pressure under the hoop, and now the Saints trying to get down the court quickly. Thrash called for the carry. The substitutions today from Coach Nichols, it's almost like you're watching one of those other sports like hockey where it's just line shifts because there have been so many interchangeable options, and that's ultimately what you want for a team when you're trying to figure out who's the best asset to have out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about at the top of the broadcast, trying to fill the Bree Spainhour void while she's out. But I do think a lot of it is keeping fresh legs as well.
Petty off balance, no problem. Another 2 for the sophomore, having herself a day. As she leads Lynchburg with 10 points, the first to double figures. Littlejohn hops over the screen. Barr trying to get the bounce pass and taken away.
That time Lynchburg doing a really good job taking away those lanes.
Littlejohn searching for Brown, ended up throwing it to the padding, and Marymount takes over.
Marymount offensively was doing a really good job. You saw them kind of driving and kicking it. They was making it work the last couple of times down the floor. Lynchburg on the last possession defensively, really good job blocking a passing lane, created a turnover. Didn't amount to anything in transition, but you got to like that look if you're Coach Nichols.
Another 2 under the bucket from Messel. She's starting to find her footing. Freshman from France in her first game for Marymount. And if you're Lynchburg, you know this Marymount team doesn't like the 3-point shot. Even the free throws have started to slow down. It has been all penetration in mid-range so far. Foul called on Schimmels in that far corner. Audra Petty will get bailed out this time. Kayla Sledge coming back into the contest. So Marymount losing a lot of its scoring, while Lynchburg has 4 of the top 5 scorers returning from last season. Olivia Harris, the lone departure, who was an all-conference consideration, the only one for the Hornets last season. Pass down low, Sledge couldn't catch up to it. Who comes away with it? None else than Messel. Trying to get back to the bucket. Pass outside. Schimmels can't get there. And Kayla Sledge has the basketball.
Yeah, another really good job. You saw the drive to absolutely nowhere, forcing a dribble, pick up, and a pass into traffic. Really good job by the Hornets defensively.
I think they got the scouting report. Vandergrift looked to shoot. Couldn't get the shot off in time. Marymount now in transition. Colway slows things up. Pass outside. Volmer. Pair of pump fakes. Beautiful ball reversal, and now Colway's shot just a touch too heavy. 12 different Hornets also earned a start last year. Think about the carousel as they search for players down the roster. Sledge misses the shot, got her own rebound, but it won't fall this time. 1 minute to play in the second quarter. Barr draws the separation. Kate Littlejohn wanted to travel, but had a little too much contact for the referee's liking.
And Barr lowering the shoulder going into contact that time.
Those are the nifty moves that you feel like an offseason can really help you establish, because you go through the season, all you're trying to do is maintain, trying to do what you've done all year. In the offseason, you get a little more crafty, and you've seen players both at the collegiate and professional level that have so many different approaches to how they handle that offseason training.
Yeah, absolutely. You see players go from kind of one-dimensional in what they do, whether it's shooting, attacking, defending, whatever it is, and they're just able to make, find that time in the offseason to elevate their game in so many different levels. And it's really fun to see at the college level, because that's what it takes to get to that next level.
Well, one of my favorite players at the NBA level, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's so cool to see what he does. And a lot of the other players nowadays, it's not necessarily about strength training, but mobility and how you can get up and down the court. For a lot of these college athletes, you might even be playing multiple sports. As Sledge has the second opportunity, still can't get the lid off the bucket.
Yeah, and you talk about SGA, man. I think his biggest key during the off seasons is working on, how you can draw free throws.
It always works, right? I mean, Barr has found a way to do it early in this game as Lynchburg out on the break. The bench on their feet as the energy swings the Hornets' way. 3-point lead with 34 seconds left in the quarter. They'll head to the free throw line for 2 as they've entered the bonus. I'll let your free throw comment slide for now, but if he wasn't averaging 30 points per game, I think it would be a different conversation. Littlejohn at the stripe. Can't lace the first one home. You're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, so we go back to the end-season tournament last year. Just thinking about the clashes. I think I understand why. 30 seconds left. The Euro step from Sterling. Still can't get it to fall. Still a 3-point game. See if Coach Nichols' squad wants to hold for a final shot. Littlejohn calling out the play. Trying to extend it beyond a one-possession game going into the break. Nice move to get to the bucket. Back down on the flourish off a chance for 2 more after missing the first free throws.
Yeah, and I'll put a pin in our conversation. I think that's what makes it so fun, being able to jaw back and forth, how good SGA is and Giannis is. And I really think, just to kind of touch up on your point, those guys have developed so extremely well in the offseason at the professional level. It's so rare to see that, but those guys just take their game to the next level. And you see shades of that because, they're guys that, college level, high school level athletes look up to. And you see, how it pays off, especially here at this college level. I think that's the biggest key, is working on your craft.
You can't necessarily emulate skill sets, but you can emulate that work ethic and what people do to be successful in the offseason. And you've seen it year after year. That's why so many of these athletes will change things up from one year to the next. Littlejohn sinks the first free throw. Second one falls to make it a 5-point game. Kayla Terry comes in, perhaps offense for defense here in the final possession of the first half. Full court pressure. Sayla Parker in the ball game as well. The speedster also on the track and field team. Look at this defense. 4 seconds to go. Barr trying to get to the hoop. Fading away. Can't get the jumper to fall. And that's how the first 20 minutes conclude. So far, Lynchburg battling it out against Marymount. A 5-point lead. And it's been one of those games as we've seen the swings back and forth. And you feel like Lynchburg's in a very confident spot heading into the halftime discussion, because you think about this, Kevin, last year that season opener didn't exactly go Lynchburg's way against a very stout Southern Virginia team, but as we see some of the highlights from this first half, it's the identity that the Hornets have maintained, the three-point shooting, the quick play. They're looking like themselves and doing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point it's all about controlling the ebbs and flows of a game. You're feeling those momentum swings, and that's what makes it so different from really any other sport you watch, is momentum can really flip on a dime, but Lynchburg doing a really good job controlling their tempo.
You saw the steal from Natalie Poole. That was maybe the loudest that we've heard the gymnasium so far on this Saturday afternoon. And then the three-point shooting in droves for this Hornets team. 6 for 13 from beyond the perimeter. Marymount hasn't sunk a three-pointer, yet 0 for 2 on the day. We're going to have a lot of discussions on the other side as the Hornets are up 5. Hope you stay with us on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network.
at the moment. We saw Marymount get a couple of like third, fourth chance opportunities.
Saturday afternoon with you. Of course, 2 ODAC championships here in the Hive today as well. Big day for Lynchburg Sports. Big day for Kate Littlejohn. Second
on the offensive floor, being able to score from really anywhere. That time missing an opportunity, but it's moves like the Euro step that you see that creates those opportunities for her to be such a prolific offensive player. And I think as the season goes along, she gets more looks, gets more comfortable in the hardwood. You're going to see her knock those down and become the player that we know she is.
These are big swings in the middle of a game. As you see now, Marymount has a chance for 2 on their side. Messel back to the free throw line. Southpaw fires the first off the back iron.
Yeah, and for Marymount, you saw what they want to do there. They've really had a focus on driving on offense, trying to get down low, create points right near the basket. That time doing it in transition. Wasn't able to get the basket, but able to convert with a point at the free throw line.
Kate Littlejohn waltzing up the court. Lynchburg inserting their starters to begin the second half. Oh, sorts of space for Petty. Nice pump fake, and the mid-range falls.
Yeah, it's just absolutely been amazing to see her growth. We talked about it kind of at the halftime intermission, how she was kind of one layered on offense. She was an outside the perimeter threat. Now you look at her, you give her that much room at the elbow, she's going to knock it down. She's so good scoring at the rim as well.
Colway, the and one opportunity, sprinkles off the glass. We've seen several and one chances for Marymount, and almost entirely shooting inside the paint or that mid-range spot throughout this game.
And Colway's someone I think this Marymount team is going to rely on a lot this year. You talked about at the start of the broadcast, she only started 1 game last year out of the 24 they played, but she had 24 blocks over the course of that season. The only 6-footer on the roster. I really think for her, just having that presence on offense, especially against a team like Lynchburg that's maybe a little bit undersized in this game, that's how you claw back in the second half.
A scrum under the basket, and Marymount will relinquish possession It will be Marymount basketball. Possession arrow didn't switch at halftime, so the Saints have the basketball, 8:46 left in the third quarter. And for Colway in particular, just like so many of the newcomers, she played only 7 games in her freshman season, so you're looking at so many of these contributors getting those big-time minutes, especially without Chandler Edelson. Ball given away, and contact off the ball. Kayla Sledge gets called for the personal. That is frustrating for Coach Nichols' squad at the other free throw line.
Yeah, just trying to set a screen to beat that full court press. A little bit more contact than you usually see on that end of the court, and I think that's what drew the whistle. Little theatrics might have played a part in it too, but nonetheless, they get the whistle.
Got to find a way to get it somehow. Didn't have to go too far into selling it. Now Sledge back down to the court. She says, you know what? We'll earn it one way or another, and Lynchburg has the basketball. That is beautiful hustle. But the Hornets tagged with 3 fouls in the first minute and a half of this third quarter. Mentioned Chandler Edelton missing from the Marymount roster today, of course. Played just one game last year against Elizabethtown at 10 points and 7 rebounds. Got hurt and missed the rest of the season. But just to put it into perspective of how good she has been in her past, as this time it's another tie-up right by the Lynchburg bench. Kaysen caught some airtime as Marymount takes over. Edelton was the Rookie of the Year, back-to-back Conference Player of the Year, and has 1,300 points at Marymount.
I think what we call that is the definition of a dog.
It's incredible to see the averages, too, because the total points tell you a lot, but Edelton tallied 534 points in a season to average 19 a game, which is such a tough rate to hold on to. For reference today, Petty has 16, and we've been talking about her all evening long. Messel took an extra step, and we're heading the other way.
Yeah, I think anytime you're able to get around a defender and to the basket from the free throw line, you probably took a step too many that time. Looked like, we mentioned him earlier, looked like one of the Giannis moves NBA officials usually let him get away with sometimes.
Mentioned that Messel is from France. You see some of the different moves and the way that players can operate. And it definitely changes when you come to the States. Such a different style of play. Heavy emphasis on the 3-ball nowadays as well, as Littlejohn off balance. Can't get this one to fall. Shot to the stripe for 2. Free throws 5 and 6 of the day for Littlejohn on the way.
That's another possession set up by the Hornets where Littlejohn's off the ball. She's not the primary ball handler. They actually let Petty bring it up that time. They let Kate work off the ball, and she is really prolific in that area. You'll see her get open a lot of times. I think a lot of times you can see her get frustrated on the court because she gets so open, and it's so hard to find her every possession. But she does such a great job, and then especially through contact, a lot of times you'll see her convert on plays like that. Really makes her a dynamic player for this Hornet offense.
Well, we've seen her primarily in that point guard role today, but when she is off ball, she's a really good three-point shooter. Something that can often be forgotten as Colway with the mid-range swishes it to make it back to a one-possession game. Only foul trouble so far is Crystal Wright with 3 for Marymount as the jumper's off the mark from Brown. Barr, far side, finds Messel, shovels the bounce pass right under the bucket, clipped the rim, and Ashley Vandergrift able to sneak away with possession.
Yeah, really good defensive possession that time from Vandergrift. The guard, guarding a 6-footer, really held her on down there in the low block. She might get it paid back on the offensive end.
Found her footing, couldn't get the 3 to fall. Petty from just a few feet out, can't connect. How will fatigue play a factor in this fourth quarter for two teams that have just run down the court all game long? Nice move right under the bucket, and Sterling will head to the stripe for 2.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Kind of took the words out of my mouth. You saw it a lot right there, especially just kind of that possession running up the court. Both teams look a little bit fatigued, and you got to wonder, like you said, how does that play in the fourth quarter? And is that in the back of these coaches' minds? First game of the season, obviously still trying to get your legs under you. Do you go to that bench? Do you have kind of that ace in the hole that you want to play in this fourth quarter off the bench?
Well, Lynchburg did play a pair of scrimmages to get the season underway. Kevin, you mentioned it earlier, a trip to Radford to face a D1 opponent, and Coach Nichols' point was that a lot of the freshmen still embraced that challenge. They were excited to go out there. Didn't matter the deficit in that second half as the Hornets played them tight early on, and this team is just ready to use that energy through the non-conference slate.
Yeah, and a lot of times you can find energy in those type of things. Obviously, you aren't the favorite going in there, but you can work on some things that you know, if they work against a D1 opponent, you can kind of store that in your playbook and kind of bring it out whenever you get to conference play, something like that. Just energy builders.
This Lynchburg team doesn't have a lot of travel on the schedule this year either, which will definitely help things out, as Audra Petty splashing everything inside Turner Gymnasium and continuing to accelerate that points total to 18 on the day.
Yeah, sidestep that time, a fader away from the basket. I've said it multiple times so far on this broadcast, but I am absolutely blown away by the way that she's just I guess you could say, progressed her bag on offense.
Crowd coming alive in Turner Gymnasium. Under 10 on the shot clock. Barr goes around traffic. Jacobisi the rebound. Hornets up 3, trying to extend this lead. Kayla Terry looks to the other side of the court. Inserts down low. Taylor Brown through the cylinder.
That's another one of those aspects I don't think Littlejohn gets enough credit for. Beautiful find, wide open. Brown on the inside. Beautiful dish that time from Littlejohn.
Fading, ultimately out of bounds, Taylor Brown. And down low with the stuff. This is that committee effort you really love to see as a Hornets fan. Everybody getting active on the offensive and defensive sides.
Absolutely. Taylor Brown, we talked about the flashy cut. Littlejohn finding her for 2 on the offensive end, comes down, matches up against a 6-footer in the paint, gets a block, bringing the energy here in the second half.
The 2 6-footers matched up against one another right now, Colway and Brown. Separation as Barr tries to go up, has it swatted away, and the deflection off the Saints.
Another block down on the low block for Brown, and you can tell she's starting to feel the energy. Turner Gymnasium starting to feel the energy. Is this a turning point in this game that Lynchburg's been looking for?
Taylor Brown had 6 starts apiece for her freshman and sophomore seasons, and we mentioned that Kayla Sledge earned the start today, but it's going to be interchangeable parts for that front court. Petty way downtown. All over the stat sheet, the sophomore lighting up the gym in the season opener.
And we got plenty of ODAC officials on the grounds here in Lynchburg. They should take note for Offensive Player of the Week. I know this is the first game, but Petty, man, she's been big for the Hornets.
And a foul off the ball. All of a sudden, the energy completely switching to the bench on the right side of the court. And that will bring us to the media timeout. The pulse is on high volume right now in Turner Gymnasium. Lynchburg up 8. We'll be right back on LHSN. Referee will blow the whistle. Looks like it'll be a clock issue as the Hornets will have a side out. Kevin, you mentioned it already. The ODAC superlatives, you don't pay too much attention to them early in the year, but it can boost confidence. And Audra Petty just looking night and day like a different player here this season. Littlejohn finding any opening off the foot of Jacobisi, and Marymount takes over.
Yeah, and I think, just Petty's, what she's added to this team so far, we're just seeing it obviously 1 game sample size, but it makes things so tough for a defense. You saw Marymount, they had a really paint presence, trying to keep the ball out and claim the rebounding battle. And it's killed them on the outside. They've made a couple of adjustments, but Petty, she's still finding her opportunities and making the most of them.
Nice bounce pass threaded through to Colway for 2. Messel has had a few nifty moves throughout the game. Back to a 6-point deficit. Noteworthy that Crystal Wright has 4 fouls. She's on the bench as Petty can't swish this one home. Littlejohn, interception. looking for the pick six, tripped up on the layup. She'll head back to the stripe for two. How about that anticipation on the defensive end?
Yeah, I think Little John is arguably the most complete player they have, especially on both ends of the floor. For a guard, she's so fast, and she's able to create kind of just those little disruptions that alter her game, really, especially when you look at where we're at here in a 6-point game. She's able to stop that transition run the Saints were going on. Now she's at the line on the other end.
21 starts last season for Little John. 2 games with 5 3-pointers as well. Talked about those 3-point numbers continuing to accelerate. Lynchburg up 6. Little John makes it a touchdown. Don't forget, ODAC championship play after this one. 6 o'clock start on Schellenberger Field as the Lynchburg men's soccer team faces Washington and Lee, a rematch of last year's ODAC championship. Hornets got the better of the Generals in the regular season, a 2-0 victory. But this is the important one, Kevin, and you feel like postseason play is always a little ramped up.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a fan of soccer, you can't miss that one. Or if you're just like me and you're a fan of Evan Gates, he's on the call for that one too.
I think you are as well, though. We're going to have some fun, right? We'll be making the trek up the hill as Marymount puts 2 more on the board, down 5. That'll be a noteworthy transition between games. Post-game here will be, hey, good game, let's head up the hill. Second chance won't fall. Jacobisi gets the possession right back. Foul is on the floor.
Lynchburg that time taking a little bit of a page out of Marymount's playbook on the offensive glass, creating those second and third chance opportunities, and you see those pay out with those fouls. And as the game gets later in its stages and you start to see the physicality ramp up, you're going to have a lot of tired bodies, and those fouls are going to become more obvious and more glaring, especially down low like that.
Pass up top, Jacobisi heckled as she tries to get the pass off to Taylor Brown, diving to get the ball back. Took a deflection off the Saints. Lynchburg has lost by double figures in each of the team's last 3 meetings between Marymount and the Hornets. Trending in a much different direction this year as Little John laces this one home.
Yeah, you talk about trends. I think one of the biggest things for Lynchburg was kind of just establishing their presence in a game in the first half. We didn't get to talk about it, but they didn't win a game last year when trailing at the half. So establishing kind of the control of the game there, they did it in this one, and they've really accelerated on it here in the second half.
Great pass up top, but 3-second violation called. Lynchburg takes over. It would have been a wide open straightaway jumper.
Give the official a little bit of credit on that one. You know how hard it is to focus on one player for 3 seconds? As crazy as it sounds, there's so much action going on. You rarely see that call. Really good job by the official that time keeping an eye, especially with the ball down on the low block like that.
Well, that's why you have multiple officials out there as well, because one person definitely couldn't cover everything. Little John, few dribbles to her right. Jacobisi down to the post. Brown cross court, nice pass. Kaysen laces it up. True on the 3-pointer, and a double-digit lead for Lynchburg.
And as soon as you think you take one of the best out of the game in Petty, Kaysen, Vandergrift, Little John, they're all itching to get their chances behind the arc.
Foul called on the floor. Looks like it's on Brooke Kaysen. What an effort for the Hornets as they swap out for a trio on the bench. Chandra Petty, Ashley Vandergrift, and Kayla Sledge back into this game. And Coach Nichols not wasting any time reinserting those starters. Messo at the line for 2, misses the front end.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things for Coach Nichols. You know, I highlighted it when Little John went out in the first half. How is that unit going to play? And when you have development from Vandergrift and Petty and all the players on the floor at the moment, it makes things a little bit easier on a coach's mind knowing that you can build that trust with these players, not have to rely on a star like Little John for as long in his game, because people can pick up the pieces that she might leave on the court.
It's been a lot of effort from a lot of different players. Now Kaysen trying to get to the hoop. Way off the side of the backboard. Pass down the court, and here's Barr. Couldn't handle cleanly. Lynchburg takes over. Foul in the last play was on Taylor Brown, so 3rd personal. That's why she's on the bench right now for the Hornets. But still a very comfortable situation as Lynchburg is up 9. Four starters in the game. Kayla Terry also out there on the floor for Littlejohn. Now ready for the three. Sends it away and knocks it home. The surge continues for Lynchburg, up 12. And an offensive foul. Other end, Zakira Sterling trying to speed things up, ran right into Ashley Vandergrift.
And those are the little things we talk about. If Lynchburg can sustain it without the entirety of a game, it's going to be really tough to beat them. As good as they are offensively, if they can find the energy and be able to be in the right position on defense to not only get those calls, but to be in a solid place, they can win games.
Vandergrift encounters the front end of the rim. Pass, cross court. Kara Volmer can't hold on to it. And this crowd just keeps getting more and more lively as this game approaches the climax.
Just to go along with what I was saying, a transition look for Marymount. Lynchburg doing a great job crowding the paint, forcing the kick out. When you have that many bodies around the ball, it's so hard to make an accurate pass. That time the pass off the mark. Another turnover for Marymount just builds onto that energy Lynchburg's creating.
Audra Petty, 21 points on the day. Has found blackjack already. Wouldn't be afraid of going over 50 seconds. Pass ends up in enemy's hands. Here comes Simmons, the fake. A little too heavy off the backboard. Second chance falls. And one chance once again for Kayla Barr, the sophomore out of Manhattan, starting to lead the charge for this Marymount team. Struggled to find points here in the second half. Puts two on the board as Natalie Poole is back into the ball game. Lynchburg has placed its handprint here on this third quarter. The energy swinging to the Hornets bench. They're going to try to finish. 43 seconds. Clock didn't resume after the free throw. Despite all the momentum that the Hornets have gathered here in this third quarter, they're only outscoring Marymount 17-13 in this quarter, but it's the defensive effort that has just been so stellar, and now both teams knotted up at 14 turnovers.
Yeah, and I think it's really just kind of contributing to the runs. You know, when they come so timely for Lynchburg, they can score in bunches, and I think obviously this third quarter's been a huge display of that.
Pass inside to Kayla Terry, looking to penetrate, goes left hand up. And the foul is gone on Simmons. 2 shots ensuing.
Yeah, we talk about energy a lot in a game like this, and if you need energy, you got to look no further than the person at the free throw line right now. Defensively, offensively, she is fired up after almost every possession, trying to just keep the energy alive, not only within her team, but within the gym. And she's been a really big key, just kind of keeping the positive vibes rolling. And obviously, it's worked out for her here. She's had a couple of steals on the defensive end, couple of baskets on the offensive end, trip to the line, knocks down the first free throw.
And Coach Nichols has been so adamant in offering that praise to players like Terry who have made big-time off-season jumps. And it's not always easy to have that energy when you're on the bench for a longer portion of the game. Last year, so many guards for this Hornets team out there on the floor. And just like Sayla Barker, who's applying the defensive pressure, Terry hasn't missed a beat this season. Sayla Parker not giving an inch. The pass out to Volmer and took a step too many.
Absolutely beautiful job from Sayla Parker, picking up at the 3/4 mark, full court pressure, and didn't miss a beat guarding the ball. Marymount's best ball handler, Kayla Barr, had nowhere to go with Parker Gardner the entire possession. And again, the pressure on the ball creates errant passes and leads to a turnover for the Hornet defense.
Poole turns it over herself. 4 seconds to go. Thrash looking for options behind the back to Volmer. Has to lift it up. Not in time. And that is how the third quarter ends. Lynchburg up a dozen, 55-43. High energy and proficient defense, the themes for that third 10 minutes. We'll be back on the other side. 10 to go inside Turner Gymnasium. to accelerate. Natalie Poole from three-point range. Swipes it out of bounds.
Yeah, you talk about how good it feels to be back in Turner. We're in probably the busiest part of our year right now. Fall sports coming to a close, winter sports getting kicked off. But, man, back inside of Turner, calling a hardcore game with D. Evan Gates. It's nothing better.
It's one of the best moments you're going to have, and we have had a lot of fun being a partnership here in the last year or so, going back to last year. As the foul is called on Sayla Parker. Can't wait to get the hoops on both sides back in this court. Of course, the men's team also has high expectations. This women's squad placed 7th in the preseason poll, and the men's team right at 5th. Both ODAC leagues very heavy up top, as first chance won't fall somehow. Colway can't get it through the cylinder on the second time, and here comes Audra Petty. Runs into traffic, and this one is a jump ball that will go the Saints' way. Stellar defense down low.
Yeah, and Petty again, she had a one-on-one opportunity just for a moment, though, because as soon as she started to drive, help side came to that low block, forced her to put up a shot that she probably wasn't comfortable taking. Credit to Marymount for adjusting on arguably the best player of the game so far.
Stats would certainly back you up, partner. 21 points for Audra Petty and counting. 8 of 13 from the field. Littlejohn forcing Volmer left. Now the pass inside and off the mark. Marymount hasn't gotten anything to go here in this last stretch. Saints 0 for 4 from beyond the perimeter as well, as Poole's shot's a little too heavy. Freshman getting a large number of minutes here in this debut with the Hornets. Goes up and down the bench as the foul is called away from the ball.
Yeah, and for Marymount, I think Volmer has been someone who we really haven't talked about all that much, but she's been a spark on both ends of the floor. A couple of passes that haven't been finished but have been flashy passes, throwing them on a dime, getting her offense good looks. And then even defensively, we saw her come away with a couple of steals, a rebound on the last possession. She's really been everywhere for Marymount so far. Be interesting to see, are they going to run it through her, or will they let Barr continue to be the main ball handler going forward the rest of this game?
Once again, another shot rolls around the cylinder and falls out. Volmer, a junior from Nokesville, Virginia, who got 4 starts last year. Taylor Brown, the adjustment, caused glass to make it a 14-point lead.
Yeah, beautiful job by Brown. Like you said, adjustment on the catch, up and under move. Gives you a wide open look off the glass. Couldn't draw it up any better.
This time Metzel runs into trouble down low. Taylor Brown will be charged for her 4th personal. See if she stays in the game. Coach Nichols will send in Jacobisi. 7:56 to play in this 4th quarter. As we said, Lynchburg hasn't won a season opener since the 21-22 season, and 2 of those losses have been to Marymount.
Yeah, you look at last year, it's almost a full year ago, losing 67-57 up in Arlington. But like you said, for Marymount, that was a completely different team. Obviously, players that they utilize on the offensive end for so much of their spark, not with the team here tonight.
Here comes Kayla Terry, right down Main Street. Stopped at the free throw line, and better hands from Volmer. Pass outside. Here's Jacobisi. Back to the basket. Pass goes outside, and Parker stuffed. Here comes Thrash. Marymount will have to get the lid off the basket soon. Colway finally does. Rattles home that mid-range jumper.
Yeah, beautiful move that time. We saw Colway a couple of times. They've had plays to kind of get her involved. I really think that's the best chance for her. Give her a one-on-one chance down low. Let her go to work. You see a good move there.
Kayla Terry hits all around the court, all beyond the perimeter. And 2 in white and red showing up and showing out. Timeout, Marymount. You can start to feel it. It's festive in the Hill City. Lynchburg up 15 as we had to break. right at 42% as well. Got to credit the passing and the quick moves throughout this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to your gateway for success. We didn't get to talk about it, but you mentioned it. For Lynchburg, it was pushing the pace and knocking down three-point shots. They've done a great job of that tonight. And I think those transition looks just kind of goes along with that passing you're talking about. Marymount's done a great job of stopping Lynchburg at the rim with the ball, but it's been the kickouts and the three-point shooting that Lynchburg has just done phenomenally here tonight.
It has just been a stellar display. Without Bree Spainhour, of course, you can pull the card that Chandler Edelton isn't in this game as well for Marymount, the former All-American. So 2 bigs out of the cards, but Lynchburg overall has not missed a beat. And they are in the driver's seat in the final 7 minutes. First basketball broadcast here in the Hill City. Plenty on the way as the pass gets away from Colway right under the bucket.
And I think Marymount, a good look there. You got Colway down low, one-on-one again. I think those are the opportunities you got to start to look for if you're going to chip away at this lead. She was unable to corral that pass, but I still think you don't go away from that. If they're going to give her one-on-one looks, you go to her and let her go to work in the paint.
And the Hornets love this up-tempo style, but they can slow things down now inside those final 7 minutes. They'll play 14 home games this year out of their 25-game schedule. Kate Littlejohn stamping it off the backboard.
A beautiful job, a little low-side seal screen from the Hornets, giving Littlejohn all the space in the world, whatever she needed that time.
Petty, Littlejohn, Terry, all in double figures for the Hornets. Kaysen and Brown both on the bench with 4 fouls. Colway goes straight up and draws the foul. On the sideline, Claire Maddox a little frustrated as this one is called. And her first season last year, coached 2 all-conference players, Kayla Barr and then Samantha Bullock, one of the departures for this Marymount team. As we said earlier in the broadcast, as Jacobisi goes to the bench, lost 4 players who started at least 23 games last year. There were 4 graduates, including Ella Morrison, who graduated after just 3 years with the Saints. And so you're just thinking about what the identity will be, and it's not necessarily restricted to this first game, but it will definitely be a learning curve throughout the season.
Yeah, and for Marymount, I like what they did right there on the inbounds. You're just not – don't overthink it, right? Give the ball to Coley in the post, let her go to work. She draws the contact that time, but you've got Hornets in foul trouble, and they've been physical all game. If you can continue to draw those opportunities, you're either going to get good buckets because they're scared to get into even more foul trouble, or you're going to draw that contact and you're going to take your chances at the line. That's, again, how you chip away and you get back into this game if you're Marymount.
Starting to get late. Over 6 minutes to play, down 17. Hornets looking to extend. Littlejohn wraparound pass. Vandergrift from the quarter can't connect. But the offensive rebound under the bucket. Petty trying to get any separation as she falls to the hardwood. How about the pass? Almost falling out of bounds.
Absolutely. It's opportunities like that normally you don't see someone like Vandergrift miss that often. Really good job. Shout out to Petty. We've talked about her outside shooting all night, down low fighting for an offensive rebound that time.
3-point shooting last year dipped down a little bit from previous seasons. This is a Lynchburg team that has always been very stellar in that 3-point range, especially the senior class that was recruited coming in. Colway goes off the backboard, but you do feel like so many of these players are trying to get those stats back, like Vandergrift and Kaysen. Kayla Terry also experiencing a resurgence here in this first game in double figures. Pass down low, Kayla Sledge can't snare it. Sledge, always known for her physicality, played lacrosse in high school at Clover Hill. It's somebody that you need to be a body down low, and especially when you have several, like Taylor Brown and Jacobisi, as we've seen early in this game, it tends to wear on your defenders. Here comes Littlejohn, full steam ahead, and finishes the play. That is a complete one from Floryn White.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, I believe the most underrated part of her game, her ability to read passes. She's quick enough to get into those passing lanes, tip them out. When she does, she's got opportunities like that where she goes coast to coast uncontested.
Watch the runway when Littlejohn is there. She has had all sorts of space today. First layup won't fall. Second chance in for Colway, who has just been a vacuum down low. Leads the team now 17 points for the Saints, and a quiet 17 as it's been a lot of paint presence. Bounce pass to the free throw line, wrapping around. Here's Vandergrift. Ten on the shot clock. Kate Littlejohn waiting for the screen. Beautiful move. Three-pointer. Count it. That is fancy footwork. And Kate Littlejohn adds a trio to the scoreboard. The Hornets all over it in the late stages of this season opener, up 18. We'll be right back in Turner Gymnasium.
It's that time. She brings the ball up, shows off a little dribble package, steps back and knocks down a big-time three. That tells you and shows you how versatile of a player she is and how important she is to this team.
Petty, straightaway jumper. Quickly finding the resolution of this game, and the plot line for Marymount can only be extended so much. Now in a big-time hole, down 20. Massell has this one stripped, but a foul is called.
And on the other end, we talk about isolation moves. Petty gets the ball at that high corner. Little fadeaway knocks it down. That's 23 for 23.
Our score at the half was 33-28 Lynchburg. They've extended it to a 20-point lead. And much credit to the entire committee. Of course, the starters have shown up in big ways. Audra Petty, 23 points. Kate Littlejohn, 19. That will typically be enough to win a ball game. Both of them now north of 30 minutes played, but you got to give credit to some of these bench players as well.
And Lynchburg, it seems like they have found a spark from almost anyone they turn to in this game. Bringing energy off the bench has been a big part, but, man, the starters have been impressive as well.
Littlejohn trying to create separation. Looks to the other side. Foul is called. This time the personal on the floor on Sakira Sterling. Last year in the ODAC, 3 teams reached the 20-win mark. Washington and Lee, Randolph-Macon, and Bridgewater College. Those just happened to be your top 3 teams in this year's preseason poll. Washington and Lee, a team that won the conference, as Kaysen's 3 is off the mark. It'll rattle out of bounds. And then Randolph-Macon, a team that had 29 wins last year. Obviously, it is very top-heavy when you look at the metrics and the statistics, but if a team like Lynchburg can just stay in the mix and even get to Salem in the ODAC tournament, they're going to be in business. Pass outside, Volmer, straightaway 3. right iron it out. And Brooke Casing corrals.
Yeah, and you talk about the importance of getting to the tournament. You just talk about top heavy. Outside of the top three, though, I really think from fourth on down is going to be wide open for any team to come and take it. And it was right in that area. You got Roanoke in fourth, 13-13 record last year. You kind of get into that area where if a team can make that stride and take the next step, they can really show up and play a Cinderella spoiler story come playoff time.
The sell to the bucket for two, 69-51 Lynchburg. Of course, when we reference Salem, that is the ODAC semifinals. The first round of the ODAC tournament is played at host sites now. A new change from last year, as the ODAC tournament used to be exclusively hosted at the Salem Civic Center, a neutral site. As Coach Allison Nichols calls timeout, 2:08 on the clock. We'll keep it right here during the break, but you know, you can try and craft expectations for what to expect in the ODAC landscape. There were teams last year that clearly elevated their play. Roanoke, a team that was young, now picked fourth in the preseason poll. Holland's another one that is eighth in the preseason poll. How does Lynchburg maintain this momentum heading into conference play and ensure that they're ready to go by late November?
Well, I think coming into the season, your eyes kind of get a little bit big when you look at the poll because 4 through 8 was all kind of right there in that same realm as far as records go from a season ago. So it's really about how you develop the guys that you bring on or the girls that you add to your team this season, and how do they mix with those vets that you have? Because for those teams, you already kind of have a DNA and a blueprint of how you got to the tournament last year. Now you continue to build on that and just get better as the season goes along.
It's easy when the ingredients are already on the shelf. This Lynchburg team has the personnel to certainly improve from last year, and they've looked juiced for this one. Vandergrift can't connect this time, out of bounds. Under 2 minutes to play.
And for Vandergrift, she's not had the night that we're accustomed to from behind the arc, but how good does it have to feel when you can look across the bench over there and you see Kayla Terry, Petty, Littlejohn, all picking up right where you left off.
Some of these players, too, Brooke Kaysen, Bree Spanauer, they all came in the same class. And with Coach Allison Nichols and one of her first seasons here in the Hill City, it was a little bit of an experiment coming in, trying to find what this team's identity would be. And Coach Nichols has clearly stated that last year was a disappointment. She doesn't want to encounter that again. 10 wins on the overall record. This Hornets team poised to make a run as Littlejohn can't get the three to fall. Cross-court pass. How about Littlejohn with a hand on it to send it into the bleachers?
Yeah, Marymount trying to find their playmaker that time. Looking for Vollmer, but you got to be wary of where number 4 is at on all times on the defensive end. She can intercept a pass in the blink of an eye.
Pump fake from beyond the perimeter for Thrash. This one is stuck on the backside of the rim, falls off. The Hornets have time to burn. They have a lead in their hands. They're going to get that season opener win to go 1-0, and it's going to be a great feel heading into the rest of non-conference play. Taylor Brown right there, a gimme that doesn't fall. Lynchburg travels to North Carolina for its lone out-of-state trip next weekend. Saturday and Sunday games for the North Carolina Wesleyan Classic. It's Methodist at 3 p.m. on Saturday and NC Wesleyan on Sunday before coming back to Turner Gymnasium for a date with William Peace. Hornets will hold. Perhaps one more shot to cap what has been a valiant effort. Marymount will also have a trip coming up to Town Bank tip-off at Virginia Wesleyan. Trying to right the ship after falling 0-1 as Colway sends one off the glass. And they're going to fix the clock. That is a trained official. When you have 40 minutes of play, you got to make sure every second counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This will bring us to the conclusion. As we said, LHSN about to host the ODAC Championship in men's soccer up at Schellenberger Field. We're about to send it that way. But 1-0 are the Lynchburg Hornets. A dominant display, 69-53 in Turner Gymnasium. Audra Petty, 23 points. Kate Littlejohn, 19. Kevin, I'll give you one more thought. this is going to be a little bit of a break until we see the Hornets again, but you got to feel like after this display, they're ready to go for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a perfect games by any means from the Hornets, and that's always the best. Whenever you can come out and you can get a win in almost dominating fashion, 69-53, and you still have things to work on. You know they're going to continue to kind of just hone in on their craft, build that chemistry that we talked about at the top of the broadcast, and just try to become better. For Lynchburg, it's all about going 1-0 each and every time you step out on the hardwood.
You see some of the replays from this game, and it was just a display all around that was a strong one as Lynchburg goes 1-0 on the road next weekend. But we'll be back on November 18th in the Men's Soccer Championship, 6 o'clock, just 10 minutes away from kicking off. Big thanks to everybody in the LHSN crew. On behalf of Kevin Nestor, my name's Evan Gates, and so long from the Hill City.